Mark it on the calendar. We may be December. So proud. Mr. Lindenboom.
I don't know.
I'm present.
I used that at a meeting, just so you know. I felt very special because they were doing roll call. Everybody was here, and they called me and said, present.
I have a sixth grade teacher that really get detention. She called her old woman, did not say present.
Present. So everybody keep that in mind. Mr.
Present detention. After the meeting.
All right, Mr. Rudolph.
Present.
Standing in for Mr. Edmondson.
Present.
Mr. Young. Yes. Mr. Van Ho.
Present.
Ms. Fox. Present. Mr. Hanson.
Present.
Ms. Becca. Present. And I'm here.
That's what I'm here. Mrs. Stauffer would be proud of all of you.
Please. We do have a quorum. I'm a troublemaker. Craig, would you please make that now?
All AMATS meetings are open to the public. The public is invited to comment. If you have a business item or a presentation by staff or consultant, the committee will then be given a chance to discuss it, and then after that, the public will be invited to comment.
Thank you very much. All right, next item is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve as
Second.
presented.
Is that you, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, that was.
And it was seconded by Mr. Lindenboom. Are there any opposed to approval? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. We do have before us today the meeting minutes from last month, November 2nd, 2017.
Move to approve.
All right, moved by Mr. Lindenboom, seconded by Mr. Van Ho. Are there any objections to approving the minutes from November 2nd? Hearing no objections, those are approved. Moving right along. We're on to our first action item, which is the draft 2019 to 2022 Transportation Improvement Plan criteria.
All right, so we've had these before us a number of times. We've had a couple work sessions on them. The dates are in the middle of the dates. We had a 30-day public review comment period, went from September 15th to October 15th. Staff went through the comments that were received and chewed on them for a while and offered their recommendations, which is what we have before you. We can go through those. We have one minor change to it, but otherwise, we have the criteria there, we have the comments, we have staff's recommendations for these. The idea is that we want to have you hopefully recommend them in some form, recommend their approval to the policy committee in 2 weeks, so that in January we can put out a call for nominations and start building a new kit. So, I can go through each one of these, or look at them and ask questions.
Are these the comments that we saw previously in the work session? Have there been revisions since then?
No, these are any additions. There's, if you look at the last page, you'll see 5 ones that came up at the work session.
Yeah.
So those were addressed here as well.
Okay. Because I know we went through many, if not all of these in the work
Yeah,
session, so
yeah.
we didn't have to go through at the meeting.
Let me go over the one change that we had. If you look on page 3, comment number 16. Looking over this, it looks like it was a little, it's not exactly clear what the staff response is. So the comment that says, I live on Third Avenue, downtown Anchorage, AKA a truck thoroughfare. I support a change to the weighting system. I think neighborhoods should get a higher priority than allocated funds. We just want to make sure that it's really clear that what staff is recommending is a change to the neighborhood livability criteria as opposed to any modifications on Third Avenue. That's not what we're suggesting here. So the suggestion would be, in the staff response, it should say, staff agrees to recommend increasing the neighborhood livability criteria to 0.5.
I would like to expand upon that, Craig. I think there's probably a half a dozen of these comments where whether the staff agrees or not really is superfluous to what the response should be. It should be, we're recommending to do it or not, but whether you agree or not really isn't a necessary piece of the response. And that, this one's a good example, because usually most of these comments incorporate 2 or 3 different things. And it probably is just more directive with the staff is, in this case, recommend increasing the neighborhood livability criteria. 2.5 would be all you really need. The staff agrees or disagrees, or staff recommends, really doesn't need to be in the response for most of these. Just something to think about. It's not a end of the world sort of thing that has to be changed.
This is the pattern we've done for years and years. I have no problem changing it, whatever the committee would like. It's just kind of been, here's a suggested change, and staff either agrees to it or not, and recommends approving it, or says, hey, we don't think that's necessary, and let's not. So we're happy to change to whatever the committee would like.
Our department has done this as well for years, and it was recently pointed out to us. So I'm sure I'm going to have
I guess if you're recommending a change based upon the comment, obviously you're acknowledging that there was some sort of a validated statement, so.
And when you throw the I agree when it's a half paragraph long, it sometimes begs the question of which pieces, do you agree with every single piece of that or not? And it just, like I said, lesson learned, sharing the scars, so you don't have to experience it yourself.
Any other questions from the committee? So I have I guess a question to the committee then. Many of these comments were made prior to the work session that we had, and then we were going through them in the work session. I know that not everybody had the opportunity to attend the work session. So I guess my question is, do we want to go through these individually as we did before, or do we want to, for the process? I guess if there's any, what I'll say is, if there's any specific comments that anybody wants to look at directly and address, I guess we can look at specific individual comments which you may have questions on. So that's how I'll pose it to you. So if there's any that draw any flags from everybody, we'll give you a little bit of opportunity to I guess, flip through these. I know that I've gone through them a couple times, so.
Ready for a motion?
No, we haven't.
Okay.
This is discussion, then we open for public comment.
That's what I got.
I have a question for the staff. I'm seeing an underline on some of these that was a recent change.
Which one are you looking at?
And 14, and if you underline under the end there. Is that just?
On number 14?
Underline.
Oh, okay.
Does this incorporate all the changes?
I should say that is the plan. I hope it's not long.
So the criteria has incorporated all the changes recommended based on the comments. Okay. Are there any significant modifications?
For the most part, what we did was, there were a lot of requests for changing the weighting. And so, staff looked at those and for the most part, those relatively minor changes are just fine and there shouldn't impact our ability to register projects anyway. So that's what most of the changes were. Some minor technical edits, some minor word changes, and then changing the weights around a bit. Yeah, I mean, the idea is, we have to reflect the national planning factors and the goals and all that sort of stuff that's required by federal law. But we can make the weighting how we want it. You know, the federal overseers don't say, you have to have safety as your largest, highest weighted planning factor. It doesn't say that. So we want to reflect what the community wants us to do, and so those are the changes that were suggested by the comments that we got in, and that's what we did.
Mr. Rizzo?
Yeah, so do the weighting changes have any changes to any specific projects? I mean, is there any significant changes to rearranging of the projects?
But we haven't done that yet. So the idea is that once we get the criteria approved, we'll put out a call for nominations. We will create a nomination form that reflects these changed criteria. And then what we normally do is we take the existing tip, and any projects that are grandfathered but haven't been completed, just get added to the start of the tip. Those are gonna be built, it'll get ranked and scored. The rest of the projects that are in the tip that haven't been grandfathered, they don't have an approved environmental document, we rank and score those. And any projects that come in from nominations, we rank and score those. And then we also look at projects that are in the MTP that don't fit one of those two categories, and we rank and score those as well. So we won't know where things move up and out, but if it's grandfathered, it's in there and will continues to be funded. We don't go back and take those.
This weighting will not be applied to the existing project?
It does not get applied to ones that are grandfathered in the tip. If they have an approved environmental document, that starts that time trap. And so we're not gonna take projects out just because we don't want to have to worry about paying back lump sum of money.
Any other questions?
There aren't any page numbers on this, but in the non-motorized project, so it starts there on one page and it goes 1 through 3, then 4, 5,
Actually, it goes 4 to 6.
and 6, and then go 5, just so you
Unit 5.
Well, it is over here, I
It's,
think.
It just didn't, the numbers didn't get changed. The weighting changed, the numbers
Yeah.
in the order didn't get changed, so.
Thanks, good catch.
so what was number 5 shifted? Got it.
Yeah, it's back at the end. I have to throw one of those in there to make sure you have something.
I'm still confused by some of the page breaks.
Well,
too,
so
that's-
what we normally do is you have a non-motorized set of criteria, you have your roadway and your CMAC. And you lump them all into one just to kind of make it easier to print off and, a PDF off the website. So normally it would be 4 separate documents.
Yeah, this looks good. I don't know if you're,
So the-
I'm not sure.
The TAP, the Transportation Alternative Project Evaluation Criteria. Have we seen this one before?
Mhm.
We did? Okay. This one's not just weighted, this is just possible points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey Greg, did you want to explain the 2 columns over here and what they mean?
How to do that? I suggest you explain the 2 columns. I thought of it myself. So if you look on the very front page of the draft roadway and safety project, you'll see the category, improve the criteria is improved safety, and it says category weighting 1.0. The total possible points, I mean, when you're multiplying 5 times 1, you get 5 points possible there. So obviously, when you go down into a weighting of something less than 10 or 1, as the case may be, it's just helping you to understand exactly what the possible points, they're all supposed to add up to 10, but the weighting is skews those possible numbers, it's just the weighting. We're just doing the math for you, or in this case, Aaron is doing the math for you through Excel.
And you want me to go through check?
Oh,
Please,
check-
make
check-
sure.
Check them out. I don't do that.
Any other questions or comments from the?
My comment is thank you for doing that.
I guess the nice thing is usually when you're going through and ranking the projects, you have a maybe a spreadsheet that does your math automatically for you.
So with this one, actually, it does not.
But it's always good to have that because sometimes Excel
Still, what it does
spreadsheets,
just.
you need to double check them as well.
Well, I was just gonna say, that was a topic that was well discussed.
First work session.
Yeah, it's the last comment. Calculate after waiting for each item.
I heard about that, even though I wasn't at the first one.
Any other questions or comments from the board before I open it to the public? Yes, Mr. Rowe.
I'm just curious, and because I don't remember, why there's a displacement category in the CMAC one, but not in the roadway or anything else like that. Degree of displacement, number of businesses or residents affected for CMAC projects, but we don't have that same category for like roadway projects or anything else.
That's a great question. Let me ask Steve Morris, who built this. It's not here.
I don't remember.
I don't remember why we did that. I mean, Steve and Cindy pretty much created those CMAC ones. They're, typically those things are a little more technical and require that measuring fluid reduction, all that sort of stuff. I don't remember if,
I would expect that at least part of the problem is that's very hard to quantify at this level on a project.
yeah.
That's my fear, is to try to quantify that now, maybe to either probably remove that from the scoring criteria. I also can't think of a lot of CMAC projects that are displacing a lot of people either. But maybe there are.
I can't really think of any either. We've had trail projects in there for short periods of time. We haven't ever built them or funded them through there, but they were in there for a bit. That's the only kind of thing that can think of. You're free to make a motion when we get there. Great idea.
Any other questions?
I think it's a required criteria for CMAX.
Sure, for sure.
It's not.
You don't think so?
Okay. So at this time, I'm going to open this for public comment. If there are any questions or comments on the draft tip criteria that are in front of us, please remember to state your name for the record. I'm going to guess everybody read it very closely. No one's come twice? Okay. Hearing nothing, but now we're live. Now, for motion.
Move to forward as edited the recommendations to the policy committee for approval.
Moved by Mr.
And the edits are the staff review part.
That's part of your motion
Well, that's the edit.
just for that one?
Because yeah.
For that one or for all?
For that one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, for the staff responses. But otherwise, as is.
Stating for all of the staff responses.
No, just for the one. That was what we did, that's what we discussed.
Oh.
Just the one that you had. He hasn't had a chance to go back and read the rest of it.
I'm happy to do it for all of them. That's not a problem.
That was the only one that I thought was really confusing, so, or potentially confusing.
So that was number 16.
16, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Lemon, hearing that, you can so second motion. We have a friendly amendment.
Yeah, friendly amendment to remove number 13 from the CMAC scoring criteria, the displacement category.
Is there any objection to any of the
sure that I object or disagree, or, I guess my only concern is whether that criteria is tied to some federal standard that we don't sit here and know about. If it's not tied to a federal standard, I don't have a problem with taking number 13 out of the scoring criteria and adjusting the points appropriately.
As far as I know, it isn't, but I can double check that. Pretty sure.
As long as it's not, I would agree with, to the friendly amendment proposed. I just would hate to find out we just took a criteria out that would in fact would bite us later when the feds go back through it. So as long as it's not a Fed requirement, I don't see a purpose for it, and I think quantifying it would be particularly challenging. So I agree that-
Typically, the criteria that, what they're expecting is that you have some sort of process that you use to objectively quantify what projects you're gonna get in your tip. They don't get down to the level of, you need to have this criteria, that criteria.
As long as that's the case, I'm fine with the amendment to make that number 13 about see back.
Mr. Lindenberg, this is a secondary motion.
Yeah.
Are there any opposed to the motion as amended? So the motion was to forward these tip criteria with the edit to the staff comment, staff response for comment number 16, and then also for upon confirmation on whether or not it is a federal requirement, removal of item number 13 from the CMAC evaluation.
Was a friendly
Correct.
amendment to include all staff recommendations?
That's just more editing for Craig.
Yeah, during the holidays.
I was trying to avoid that, to give you more free time in your holiday, but.
All right, let's be honest,
Honestly, there are some other ones.
there's only 31 comments here, so doing it for these ones would not be that bad.
I wouldn't entertain it.
Well, just to clarify.
Yeah.
Rather than saying staff agrees, just say what is recommended
Yeah.
based on.
Yeah,
So,
fine with that.
okay. Are you opposed to that? So that's another amendment to the motion.
Sure, why not?
Okay. So you have two, Brent.
Alex is 3.
No.
It's only 2. I lost count.
Just two, a motion and 2 amendments.
Yeah, the motion. All right, are there any opposed? I should say, I guess. All right, hearing none. You're recommending these for approval to the policy I'm making my own notes, sorry, so don't ever do anything there. I'll be like, yes, that is what we discussed.
Staff disagrees, is what we do.
All right, so the next item before us, now on to general information items. The Midtown Congestion Relief Planning and Environmental Linkage Study. And I'm guessing this is probably what we had reviewed before, so. And I believe we all have a handout for it,
Can't hear it. No. I like this.
Oh, wow, yeah, that was just kidding. People lost all I know.
Soon we won't be able to see anything.
Now you know what to put on the wish
Thank
list
you.
for Christmas.
It'll be perfect when it rains.
Santa and bring it. This is exactly. Tell size and then buy it.
I know, it could not be worse.
Okay.
I'm Sean Holland with the Department of Transportation. So thanks for giving us a few minutes to talk about our project. Now, I've been to this meeting a few times, but I never pay attention to see where everybody stands when they present. It seems like they're, what do I do with my hand? Anyway, so the project that we're talking about is the Midtown Congestion Relief. We're doing a planning and environmental linkage process there. The corridor that we're looking at is on the Seward Highway, starts on Tudor to the south and heads up through 20th to the north. So we're taking a look at all those interchanges or intersections in through there and kind of taking a broader look just to see how it impacts the whole system there in Midtown. Dow Engineering was awarded the pre-construction services contract. In that contract, they have this planning and environmental linkage. We're going to do a phasing and a funding plan, and then they also have, they're going to give us bid-ready documents for phase one of the project. They competed against two national firms. You know, we have a pretty strong team. We have CH2M Hill is also on the team, and Kittleson and Associates as well, and I think our team makes up the large majority of the public audience here today. So the objective of the project is to define several smaller projects within that corridor. And what we're looking at is projects that are going to have independent utility, and they're going to complement each other. And then by complement each other, I mean that we're looking at the order which we want to build them in to make sure that we aren't going to kind of predetermine the scope of any future project with our current project, and of course we want them all to work together as well. And then also we're taking a look. We want to take a look at the interim impacts. So, for instance, if we have to cut off access to one of the interchanges, we want to make sure in advance that we're going to consider how that impacts the rest of the system so that we can take care of that. That the corridor everybody knows pretty well, I think. And we're here pretty much we're just getting kicked off. So we're here just to give you a heads up that we're getting started. We're trying to, generate some interest and also generate some enthusiasm. Maybe we've tried this a couple times before, and or something similar along that same corridor, I'll say, and we haven't made it anywhere. So I think we have to take a look at it and find a different way to get something built this time. I guess I don't want to stack up more money just so we can, beat our heads on a different spot on the same wall. But it's an important project, an important corridor for the city. There's over 100,000 trips through there a day. If you count all the major intersections, it's a choke point for non-motorized traffic to get across there. It divides the residential area from the commercial area. So we're looking at options so that we can try to connect those. And obviously, there's a lot of accidents, a lot of traffic accidents, and there's also been some recent pad accidents, and we're looking at solutions to try to reduce those. So to run you through the PEL process, I'm going to turn it over to Steve Noble with Dow.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you, Sean. Excuse me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I have just a few slides to go through, and then we'll be open to questions. Appreciate the opportunity. Like Sean said, we're just getting started on this project, so we have not been out for any formal public open houses or anything. Really, we've started from internally at DOT, trying to get our hands on what's been done in the past, and now we're starting to reach out to the more external input. And so a couple weeks ago, we started going out to the community councils and giving them a heads up that this project is starting, and we're continuing that on through December here. And before we have our open house, we wanted to make sure we briefed you as a committee, and we're also going to go to the policy committee here in a couple weeks. And so we're really looking to make sure that we have a a good sense and good guidance from the leadership on this project as we're trying to move forward. So I appreciate your time, and I'll be brief as I can, and still try to give you a good idea where we're headed. So the Midtown Congestion Relief Project, we are just getting into this, so I don't have a lot of specific statistics to provide you today, but suffice it to say that it's largely driven by the issues that Sean was talking about. Safety is a huge issue in this section of the highway and this section of Midtown. Seward highways, that is a barrier for multimodal access, both east-west as well as north-south. There's congestion issues that we all know of. This is the area that transitions from a freeway to the signals. And the thing that we want to emphasize, and this probably should be at the top of the list, is this is a Midtown mobility issue, not just a Seward highway mobility issue. And so that's really what we're trying largely to emphasize to the public is, Seward Highway is the spine that runs through the middle of our study area, but we're studying from Lake Otis all the way over to the AC couplet, and from 15th Avenue to Tudor Road. And so we're largely starting with the blank slate. There have been some prior projects that Sean referred to, and those prior projects, we have all the information from those prior projects. We have the alternatives that were evaluated, the concepts and the data and the public input. All that information is informing us of the issues and where we're headed on this project, but they're not necessarily the basis for it. We really are taking a fresh look at the improvements that need to be done in the Seward Highway area here. And those two prior projects, it's obviously it's the highway to highway project that previously looked at a larger section of this corridor, as well as the 36th Avenue project. And for a variety of reasons, those other projects never came to ultimate fruition. But suffice it to say that the kind of the general feeling is that the highway to highway project was kind of a mega project that really lacked the community consensus and funding to be able to move forward. And then 36th Avenue kind of scaled back to the other end of the spectrum, looking at one intersection, and in some ways was not able to answer some of the public's questions about mobility and access and how it fit in with the Midtown improvements. And so we're trying to right-size this project now by looking at the Midtown area and saying, okay, what is the vision for Midtown Anchorage? You're going to hear us purposefully avoid calling this a project, because what comes out of this is a vision for, at least out of the initial phase here, is a vision for Midtown that is made up of multiple projects, as Sean said, and then those projects will then feed into the future STIP, and then the highest priority project of that will be the last phase of our efforts under the current contract as we move forward in trying to implement this project. So a lot of you have heard my spiel on the planning and environmental linkages, and so I'll apologize to those who've heard that, but for those who have not heard it, I will be brief. Planning and environmental linkages is a new approach to getting projects done, and it's part of the Federal Highways Administration Everyday Counts program to try and streamline projects. And the whole objective here is to have a more collaborative and integrative planning and environmental phase that are completed in concert with each other. They're completed concurrently rather than in series, how the traditional federal process has the planning, then it has environmental document. So in this project, we're actually doing those two tasks concurrently, and we take advantage of a lot of the similar tasks that occur during both of those efforts to help us dig out the issues and to have a more collaborative effort, not only as a team, but also with the community in general. We want to have a more collaborative effort with the stakeholders, with the community, with the public, with the community councils, there's a myriad of interest in the Midtown area that we want to engage in this process. And the goal here is a broader vision, better coordination, and making better decisions. And you can't see it at all, which is amazing to me on the color here, but there is another line
There it is.
that indicates the environmental tasks. And you can see that on your page. The scoping processes are the same, and then we have, in a typical planning process, you have goals and objectives, and the environmental, we call that purpose and need. And then in the planning process, we have range of options, we have alternative screening, we have, and you can see how these tasks are similar jargon and similar process. And so those are the tasks we're trying to link those as we go through here. And the goal is to get through the planning and environmental process over the next 2 years and come out of that process with consensus on where we're headed as a community for Midtown Anchorage, with a vision for the projects that need to move forward to achieve that vision. So, I mentioned that we're using prior work efforts to inform this project, and so these are some of those things that we've heard from some of the past projects that we anticipate are going to be some of the issues that are important to the public and to the stakeholders. But so as we get started here, we know that this is still draft because we have not been out to the public yet. But we're going to be talking about this and having a dialogue with the public on what are the goals for the Midtown area. But we know that there's the desire to better connect, particularly from a multimodal perspective, the Midtown area, and to improve safety, particularly for pedestrians and cyclists. And then we want to make sure that we are avoiding and minimizing the impacts, and that we come up with a plan that is fundable and that we can actually build something. And this project's going to result in projects being built, and we want to make sure that that vision is captured. This is not just a study, okay? So the outcomes here is to get this shared corridor vision, identify and implement individual projects, and these are the things that we're looking for on those projects. As Sean said, they have to have certain features in order for them to occur. So this is not one corridor where we have to do a giant environmental document to try to identify and all the impacts and move it ahead as one big mega project. That's not this project. We have a planning study for the Midtown area, and it's going to have individual projects that we're going to exit the planning phase with concurrence from the public and the agencies on how we're moving forward. Each of those projects will be able to stand on its own merits by having its own independent utility and its own logical termini, meaning its own logical start and end points. You have a copy of the PEL outline and the process that we're planning to follow, and you can't even read this, so that's why it's good that it's in front of you. But you can see the timelines that are on the basic tasks. We start kind of with we are right here, okay? We're not somewhere in the middle. We are right here. We're defining the study and starting to engage the public right now. And so as we go through this process for the next 2 years, we'll be working on establishing the vision for the corridor and for the Midtown work, and evaluating the travel corridor, identifying the alternatives and screening those out, developing the document, identifying the projects, and then moving forward. So we felt like, particularly with the 2 prior projects that did not move forward, we wanted to make sure that we understood what justified and was considered to be a success as we move forward. And so this is how we're defining the success of this project off the top as we begin this project. And that is, so we've got a 3-year, a 5-year, and a 10-year vision for our thresholds, I should say, for our success. Firstly, we want the PEL process that we complete on this project to be, or on this, it's not this project, it's multiple projects, but on this, over the next 2 years, we want the PEL effort to be a model for future planning efforts. We want to generate and demonstrate how this process can make projects better and more collaborative and all those things that we've talked about. One of the problems that we deal with a lot in our industry is that the public doesn't know how to engage in the planning process. They don't know how to engage in the variety of different processes that they're confronted with, whether it's a route development plan or a corridor study or a major investment study or environmental document. The lay people that aren't in our industry don't know how to engage and when to provide meaningful comment and input. And so the hope here is that we can actually identify and define an approved process that the state can use and scale to a variety of, ideally to all projects as they're moving forward. So we're paying particular attention and being very deliberate about the process on this project so that we can make sure that we're able to define a process that can be scalable and that is, and we realize there's an educational element to this as we move forward. So in 3 years, the plan is that we have a finished PEL study. That means we have a broadly accepted corridor plan and that our first project's in the design phase. By 5 years, we will measure success by having our first project under construction, and that the project and the corridor vision is still broadly accepted, and that there are additional projects in the design phase. And then in 10 years, our vision is that the project is complete and that the corridor has been, the projects that are in the Midtown congestion relief corridor vision are all fully implemented. From the schedule standpoint, you can read it, but it's largely a 2-year effort for the PEL phase, and then we're moving into the environmental design of right-of-way, and the construction of project number 1, we're calling it. It would be 2020 and 2021. Right now, the STIP includes a couple of projects that will undoubtedly change as the new STIP is in progress right now. But we envision that after we get the PEL written and we get the corridor vision established and the projects defined, that those projects will then be added to the STIP and be ranked and scored accordingly. So my final slide, we're in the middle of our public outreach for the data collection phase. And over the next couple of months, we're going to be heavily involved in getting out to the community councils. We're going to every community council that touches this area. And we are giving them really a pretty brief, hopefully a bit of a teaser to get them to come to our open houses and to get engaged. It is our envision, it is our part of our plan that we'll have a technical advisory group made up of business owners and community council representatives that'll be participating. And so we'll have that stakeholder group. We'll have agency and open house meetings, and kind of moving forward, it's going to be a very public outreach intensive effort for the PEL phase. Any questions? Yes.
More of a comment that we've got some really good mapping here that's done through a variety of things. I think Transit did some good mapping in the area recently. And one of the things we looked at was how rich in jobs this area is. So I think that's a really important aspect. And so we concur with your idea of reaching out to business community. When you look at someone told me they call it the spam can, but some of those buildings in Midtown have up to 1,200 jobs in them, 800 jobs. There's a lot of jobs that people are commuting to, getting to. So really, I think let's reach out and find a way that we can engage those guys.
Excellent.
Couple comments and then a question. I think this project is really great. I'm glad DOT is moving in this direction. I really like this PEL outline. So I don't know if that was Rachel or whoever did this, but this is really well done and easy to understand. 2 questions are, for your success, I was wondering if you had thought about a measurement for success being reducing time in the environmental documents that come out of these projects, since you're supposed to be kind of coordinating that effort as you go through. There's some way to measure does this reduce the amount of time you spend on environmental documents for these projects? And then my other question was maybe for just DOT in general, since PEL is not really a new term, just wondering if DOT has successfully implemented a PEL project before, or is this going to be like the first major one?
Okay, so I can answer most of those questions, and then if Sean wants to jump in. So firstly, I'll try not to be insulted that you immediately assume that the engineers had nothing to do with it. Secondly, the last, I might not remember all of your comments, but certainly this is not the first PEL. There was an original PEL in Alaska was done up in Fairbanks, which was the Richardson Highways East Expressway PEL study. It was the first one that was done in Alaska. It was completed about 2015. Actually, Dell was the consultant that was selected for that project as well, and it's one of the reasons why we were selected for this one is because we do have experience in helping the state go through the process. And then we've also got folks from the lower 48. There are lessons learned from Montana and Colorado and Utah and other states that use the PEL process more heavily. You're right, it's not new. It's been around since about the early 2005 to 2008 timeframe. And other states are much more advanced in it than Alaska is. Other states that use it consistently often have statewide policies for how they're going to implement the planning and environmental linkages process. Alaska does not have that, and I think that's. I mean, it's not surprising given that we've only used it on one project. But there's certainly lessons learned from the project that we did up in Fairbanks that we're applying to this project. And one of those things that we're applying, I think this answers your second question, is how to engage the agencies and to help make sure that we are able to truly benefit from the upfront environmental and planning efforts that are being done in coordination here. And that is to try to get those agencies, first of all, engaged and educated as part of the early upfront effort. We do have an agency stakeholder meeting in January where we're going to explain to them what this process is, and we actually are intending to have a project-specific memorandum of understanding whereby we get all the agencies to agree and sign on that they understand the process, they're going to engage in the process, and they're agreeing that we're going to build on the work that's done during the PEL as a basis for those future projects that are moving forward. It's our vision that when we come out of the PEL, that we have a single corridor vision with preferred alternative projects that come out of that, so that there won't be an alternatives analysis completed for every single project that comes out of it. We're going to do that alternatives analysis during this phase, so that that's how it will help to streamline the future efforts, because that will be able to be done for the whole corridor, because they do work together. Even though they have independent utility, the projects work together to achieve a corridor vision or a vision for Midtown Anchorage. Does that answer your questions?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
I think, one of our goals anyways was to look at this, trying to make this PEL process a model for the state. And I don't know, it'd be hard to measure, whether we're gonna be able to shorten the time to produce a CE. But I think if we can come out of this with having, 3 or 4 CEs for our individual projects, that's a success.
Yeah, without having to do alternatives analysis for each of the projects, if that's what really comes out of this, that's a huge time saving.
And we might be able to compare it to similar projects and see what the timeline looks like too. But
Just curious.
it's a good suggestion.
Yes.
Just a comment as well. As I just returned from Juneau doing the new STIP, I'm kind of concerned about your project timeline here and your funding. It is extremely constrained. Regardless of the cost of any individual project that is a result of this, your timeline is going to be problematic. And so I would encourage Sean and your group to work with us closely, because as soon as we can get any idea for a project startups and costs, we need to get those put in there as soon as we can, because even 20 and 21 is going to be tough to get new starts in there. But we're having less money available. We've changed some things around in the STIP. I'm not going to go into all the details, but there's a lot less money available for these types of new projects.
Understood. Thank you.
You noted that you're sort of, you've got the highway, which is sort of the center of your study area too, as far as C Street. And I would like to point out that the Union Club was planning effort on Valley 36, I want to say 32nd or
32nd, 33rd.
for non-motorized. And I'm hoping somehow that gets integrated. I'm sure you're positive. They should have it.
Yeah, it's even got a similar name.
Yeah.
So well, maybe one thing that we do early on is do that brain dump among the agencies, everything we know that's going on within the larger project area that would benefit or be harmed in some way, or I think we need to have that time in January where we are doing that. We recently took over the archive property. We are hoping that the Federal Archive property will be mixed use. That's a new thing in the region or in this sub area. And at the scale that we're talking about, it's very significant. So there's lots of other trends that are occurring. And I think it'd be great to put that down in a map so that spatially everybody can see that. And so you have a good starting point.
Sounds good. I agree. Any other comments? If not, I appreciate your time, and I'll let you get back to your meeting. Thank you. So your design skills.
Well, yeah.
No, I thought there was already a solution, 1020. He said it was done, and care of it, it was already somebody. Put a lot of money out of contribute that, so, yeah, we need a building official, they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Sidebar, anyway. All right, so do we have an update on the 2040?
I have it really quick. We are still waiting for the upcoming 30-day online public meeting number 2 materials based on what we heard from Charette. To see if we were being public correctly and for them to weigh in early consensus before we move forward. We should see a draft next week. There it goes.
Okay. Do you know how did the shred go?
Statistics on it, I don't remember now. I wasn't there for 2 or 3 days. Bart, you were there for a couple of days. Aaron was there probably for all of the days. It seemed like there was decent attendance. I know the workshop that we had, or the work session that we had with the CAC, the TAC, and the policy committee was very well attended. All but one of the policy committee members were there. And I think 6 of the CAC and 5 of the TAC, so it's a pretty decent showing. You're guessing which one of the policy committee wasn't there? Is that what you're wondering?
No, I thought you were trying to say only one of the TAC wasn't there, and I was gonna say, don't look at me. I had a conflict.
Only one member of the policy committee.
Yeah.
So it's pretty
I'm
good.
guessing, yeah. All right. Thank you, Craig. Are there any questions? Are there any other committee comments? I guess my comment for any, this is a license renewal year for any professional engineer. So we have until December
the end of the month
Yeah.
to renew your license and make sure that you have all of your continuing education units appropriate for extending your license. I could tell you so, just a reminder. So, and for many people, and at least within the municipality of Anchorage, you have until tomorrow to update your open enrollment as far as your health benefits go. So notice to anybody using your employee to do that as well, so reminder. Any other comments?
Just, we'll be announcing next week that we're getting a mobile app for transit. So right now we're a cash-only system, so we'll have an app for the smartphone, so you can load money on your smartphone with a credit card or debit card, and you no longer have to have cash or a paper ticket. So we'll be rolling that out in the next couple weeks.
Right.
We'll be able to pick Apple Pay.
Yep, yep.
Do we have an electric transit update?
The Assembly approved the electric bus lease, so that will be up here within the next week or so. And we'll be getting it ready for winter conditions and on the road in January to test it, so.
Does the committee get a lift?
Sure, we can arrange it.
That'd be fine.
I can send you a free pass on your smartphone app.
Okay.
Yeah, true.
No, exactly, or maybe
True, yeah.
if you keep it to get in and out of this building, you should always have it with you. All right, any other committee comments for the good of the order? Are there any public comments? I know, I'm gonna say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. There's a total of 16 different holidays that are celebrated between the months of December and January, so lots of celebrating to do. I know, I try to invite myself to every event that I can, so I get to do a lot of celebrating. So, all right, it is now 4:27 and we're